to another medium panel. Yeah, good morning. We are just some cool nerds who are going to talk to you about some opinions we have on various pieces of media that have been translated into other forms of media, and we're just going to discuss: do they work? Do they not work? Why did they make this abomination? Is it actually an abomination? We don't know. Well, you'll find out our opinions on that, and we'll have a 15-minute Q&A at the end, so you can ask us about our opinions that you agree with, or you think they're doo-doo. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you can also say, like, hey, do you think that this thing that I know is a good thing? Yeah, we can chat about it. Anyway, some introductions. My name is Brianna Navitskas. I am a she, they, those are my pronouns, and handle the animator on those socials. I'm the storyboard revisionist in the animation industry, worked on Justice Big Little World, Mini Tunes, Proud Family Reboot, and Mirror World Detective for Disney Junior. And I'm the co-founder of an organization known as Black and Animated, which helps promote the growth of Black folks seeking jobs in the animation industry. So if you want to do that, you should come talk to me. And on my left, we have...
I'm Offbeat Kiki. I make video essays where I try to find the good in animated movies and cartoons that may, just nostalgically not be what we remember them as. I'm also a musician, producer, and a professional designer, and I know way, way too much about it.
And on my far right, we have...
It's me. Hi, I'm Joey. I don't remember what it says up there, but all of it's probably true. I make videos and stuff. I spotted. I like cats as well. And on my left,
Hi, I'm Nick. Go by Nintendo. It's Nintendo on Twitter. I do animation reviews, countdowns. They're now called ranking videos, actually. And just analysis. Big fan of the medium. And I'm also a big fan of panel introduction slides. So this is probably, yeah. I also like hitting my co-host. This is some of the highlights of the panel for me personally. So it's only going to go downhill from here.
And then on the far left, we have...
It's Man of 1,000 Thoughts, aka Man Lightfoot, which is what my ad is on Twitter. If you want to follow me there, I analyze cartoons and cartoon accessories, and I'm glad to be on this panel with all these fine and lovely people to be able to discuss the different mediums that adaptations can take on our nerd culture.
Yeah. Wonderful, beautiful people. So just a couple of quick rules. We just want to make sure that, when you're all listening to each person talk, please don't interrupt. Please save any comments, quips, and concerns for our Q&A section. We don't mind any oohs and ahs or like claps or ahs, but any like quips and whatnot, save that for later, please. Just that it's fair. Thank you. So let's get, well, I said what this panel is already, so well, you know what it is. So let's talk a little bit about some anime and live action adaptations. Let's talk about Death Note. I'm sure all of you know what Death Note is, and if you don't, what are you doing? Go watch it. It's pretty darn good.
It's shorter than what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's an anime that is 50-something episodes long. Came out when... 37. Oh, much shorter than I remember.
I'm still more than count.
Came out when I was in high school-ish, and yeah, anime is really good. And
Based on an incredible manga.
But two live-action types were created. A Japanese live-action set of movies, and a American Netflix one.
And we watched the Netflix one last night.
We watched half of the Netflix one.
We were too tired.
We were really sleepy. We started at like 11, so we got an hour in. It's like, well, time for bed.
Time for bed.
Yeah.
So, dear friends, what do you think of the Netflix live-action adaptation of...
Cheeks.
So why is it cheeks?
Look, I'm not someone who actually finished or watched the original Death Note
Okay, then
series.
let's talk about it. Okay, so I think that we should first talk about what made the original Death Note anime good, and like to contrast.
Should we talk about the manga to the anime?
Well, manga to anime was was yes, like the right word, man. Come on. Well, the manga to anime for Death Note was, I think, from what like watching it, as it was coming out and reading it, I remember enjoying it a lot and just the adaptation in anime form. Like, I got my mom to watch animation. My mom doesn't really like anime a lot, but she watched Death Note and she loved it. And even though they changed the ending a little bit, I still think they did a pretty good job. And Death Note is very like talk heavy, so there's a lot of text in the manga, and it's kind of funny that Obata and his partner, whose name is like Sugumi Oba, I believe is his name, that they did a manga about making manga, and one of the rules was like don't have too much text, and then if you look at Death Note, it's just nothing but walls of text.
Was that done after they made Death Note? Like,
I actually don't know if Bakuman was done after or before.
It was after.
It was after. Thank you, thank you.
That was the apology.
That was
Yeah.
the apology. Yes.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry. So much text in Death Note.
Right.
But yeah, anime was really great, and also 14-year-old Brianna had such a big crush on my Yagami. Sorry, guys. I thought he was a cutie, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Get out of here. I don't know. That's not relevant.
No, but they make him very. Okay, first of all, they set him up to be a very studious main character. In the beginning, he's a rule follower. He's somewhat respectful to his mother. He lives a quiet life. He's keeping good grades. All of this stuff. So to see him, suddenly adopt this sociopathic behavior,
It's
like,
shocking. You're like, oh.
Yeah, it's a shock to the viewer, and it kind of like peels back who Light is and shows us the dark energy that's kind of underneath that, expands throughout the entirety of the show and the manga. So one of my critiques of watching the Death Note movie is that they start out with Light, like, was he like doing essays for people or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
He
Right.
starts out as a rule breaker, which is like antithetical to what they were trying to do with the setup of Light in the anime.
Mhm.
So already there's like completely changing the characterization of
Right.
the main character, which just kind of undercuts the themes of the concept.
Right. Anyone else?
I could.
Yeah.
My thing with it is, like I said, I wasn't really a watcher of Death Note. I've seen, bits and pieces of it, know a little bit of lore and all that. I know the main premise and everything. So going into the movie, I was more looking at it as a movie, and as a movie, really not good. Like, they really couldn't understand just basic filmmaking. Like, we can't really sympathize with Light in the movie because, like you said, he starts off just kind of a jackass, and it's like, okay, whatever, he just does this, he just giving away this stuff, and it feels off because it's like, nothing about him feels like like an actual person, in a sense. Like, he just kind of, for some reason, they give him a chosen one complex now, even though, because we watched the first episode of the original series, like, before we watched the movie, and it was my rewatching last night, and in the first episode, they make it clear, like, yeah, he's just a regular guy. Anybody, this could have happened to anybody. Even Ryo says, it's like, yeah, you're not special. You're just some punk kid who found the book. That's it. Like, and a thing that really was established in the Death Note, at least in the first episode, was like, there's a few rules here and there, but it's not too extensive. And we were discussing this last night, that the movie is so Americanized and trying to dumb itself down for American audiences, but in trying to dumb itself down, it made itself way more complicated than it's supposed to be, or should be. Like, they constantly point out, it's like, here's all these rules to how the book is supposed to work. And all that's going to do for an audience member is make them nitpick and figure out, okay, where did you break the rules here, where did you break the rules there? And that's what was happening with my first viewing. It's like, okay, wait, you said you could do this thing, but somehow you didn't do that. That's not making any sense how that works.
I think, because my analysis of it, like, when I first watched the Death Note Netflix live action with my husband, years ago, back when it came out in 2017, and we both laughed at it, and we're like, this is really goofy, this is kind of dumb, but we had like a so bad it's good time with it. It's kind of how we went into the film, and by the end of it, we were like, this sort of devolved into a big mess. But we had fun with it, and we saw the potential it had, because I know there was a critique of the Netflix one that like why is he American, like this is set Japan, and when you I am kind of the thought that like Death Note doesn't feel as specific as a Japanese story to me as some of like of the other like works that they've done. It feels like, you know, you can give the Death Note to anybody and drop it anywhere, and I kind of I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, saying that like I get where the developers of the Netflix version were coming from by making like the way he was, because I feel that sort of like the Japanese like model and honor student probably for an American audience, as Man said when we were discussing this tonight, is probably not as approachable for in like a generalized American audience way. So if people remember from the Netflix version, the motivation for Light is different. He's not bored like he is in the anime and the manga. In the Netflix movie, he kind of is on some sort of like vengeance quest because a killer murdered his mom and he got away with it. And that kind of, I guess, is like more appealing, I suppose, sort of like vengeance thing for American audience. I mean, look at Kill Bill, right? Like she's on a the bride is on a vengeance like revenge quest because Bill wronged her. Hope I didn't spoil Kill Bill for anybody. It's been years. Sorry.
Whoa! Is someone gonna try to kill Bill?
I'm just saying. Now, but and like Lakeith Stanfield, who plays L, was a highlight of that movie for me.
Yeah.
He was the highlight of the first hour we watched.
Well, highlight for when I watched the whole
Okay.
thing. But like him and Green Goblin, yes. Willem Dafoe.
Green Goblin.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe was a very great choice for you. But kind of jumping to Japanese live action, I don't know if anybody else has seen it.
No, I haven't seen a lot of Japanese.
Okay, live action Death Note is a little goofy. It's very goofy. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Danny California is like the main theme of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Just because, I guess. And they change a lot of things, but it works. But it's just still very silly. And CG Ryuk is also silly, but it's a lot more faithful to the manga and the anime adaptation. But we can talk about Death Note for a while. Let's move on to Battle Angel Alita. Yeah, the Alita movie. Mr. Spy Kids himself, Spy Kids man, made a movie for it for us American folks. Did we like it?
I liked it. I thought it was cool.
I thought it was pretty good.
I didn't know
It worked really well.
But what about the big eyes?
If anything, that's the thing. If people have a contention about the big eyes actually work with how they were doing the movie, because they play up the fact that she's not actually human. So with her having those big CGI eyes, it's more to emphasize that it's like, this is not a human person. This is a android. This is somebody supposed to play into that uncanny valley. You know, it's utilizing sort of bad CGI, granted this is good. She made it clear that this is not a regular human being. You know, that's one thing where it's like Robert Rodriguez really understood the assignment, you know.
Definitely. And the Battle Angel, I haven't read the manga, but I've seen sporadic like moments from the OVA, and honestly, it's alright. Like, and I know people that have like seen it in full, and they told me that they really enjoyed the Alita live action CG hybrid, and it was a good time. Like, I went into it not knowing too much, and even as like a standalone film, like away from its source material, I think it succeeds at doing a really good job of showing you like this weird cyberpunk dystopian weird world and their skate, rugby, whatever thing that they have. I don't even know what to call it.
Like rollerball?
Rollerball.
Yeah.
Why did I say rugby? Sorry.
You know, it's a good adaptation. I personally haven't seen it, but my dad saw it and he recommended it to me. And he's very like, he just doesn't watch anime, but he loves things that are inspired by anime, not directly. Like, he's like, have you seen this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once? I think you'd really like it. And someday I'm like, someday I'll have to be the brave one and go up to him and be like, so there's this movie called Millennium Actress that it's kind of what that movie was taking from, but it's a cartoon, just in case. But yeah, so high praise from him.
I'm sure your dad is probably also like, man, do you like Inception? It's really great. And you can be like, have you seen Paprika? Or not Paprika, Blue.
Yeah.
Blue.
Some of me and my family had a running joke. If my dad was a huge anime fan, being like, "Did you see Dragon Ball? The new movie got #1 in the box office." Like, what if he was like a big anime fan and just texting us like entertainment industry news? Yeah.
Now let's move on from the anime space. Let's go into the American cartoon space and video games.
I love video
The
games.
Simpsons
Yeah.
arcade game last night.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
I didn't know
talk about
Konami made this.
Right.
Metal Gear, Mr. Metal Gear themselves.
Yeah, so we can talk about the Simpsons arcade game.
Yeah.
This was a pick for me, and some of us went to a barcade last night, and we played the entire all 8 levels, the entire game, on like, I don't know, like 24 different swipes. Unfortunately, we didn't have to use money or quarters on it.
Right.
But it took like an hour to get through the whole thing with like 2 to 4 people.
That's pretty hard.
Yeah, and it's I wanted to bring it up because it's weird for 2 reasons. First, it was made by a Japanese team based on only like the first 20 episodes of The Simpsons. It came out early '91, so it's super early Simpsons stuff. So you see background characters that were on screen for a minute in like one of the early episodes. That's like a boss character. That's one of the people you play. Yes, this is where I excel. Yeah, last night I was playing with Keeks, and I was like, that's from Some Enchanted
He
Evening.
was info dumping.
That's from Homer's Night Out. And it's got a lot of things that were almost in the show, where they had like a piece of random promo art, like Lisa has a jump rope. Okay, Lisa's gonna fight with the jump rope for the entire game. That's the character. Yeah.
So I tagged in at the end. I'm like, why should I have a jump rope?
Right. Yeah. And Marge
Because girl, I guess.
Marge fights with a vacuum cleaner.
Marge
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because wife. Yeah.
But she's beating, like, you can play the game solo as Marge, so she beats everyone up.
Everybody get their hands.
Yeah. But I think it's funny because you're transitioning a family sitcom into a beat 'em up. Like, it was made off of, or like similar to the Ninja Turtles beat 'em up, and all these 4-player co-op arcade games Konami was making. So having to take like characters like Mr. Burns, like he's a grouch, and his assistant Smithers, who's just like his like just toady assistant. Now he is the boss that throws bombs at you, and like
He's like really evil.
yeah, he's really
He's
evil.
very out of character.
Yeah.
So
Right.
He like
You kidnapped a baby.
Kidnap Maggie,
yeah, he
right.
kidnaps Maggie because she has a diamond in her mouth as her pacifier. So he's a jewel thief, and he has this classic catchphrase that he says in every episode: "Welcome to my world," which is a classic Smithers line, I think.
For some reason.
Yeah. So yeah, it feels like anime Simpsons
Yeah.
is how I've described it, because the way the characters are drawn are a lot
Right.
more very loose, very I don't know, more Japanese influence.
Yeah.
And there's Marge has rabbit ears in the game because Matt Groening was like, at the last episode of The Simpsons, we should reveal that Marge is actually a rabbit, like my Life in Hell characters, because that was the comic he did before The Simpsons. There is no last episode of The Simpsons. It never happened. Yeah.
And there probably never will be. Everyone in this room will probably be gone from this earth, but the Simpsons will remain.
Yeah, me fighting the will, trying to stay alive. I can see that last episode of The Simpsons.
I get caught in it.
Yeah, what are they gonna do?
Who knows?
I wanted to say that although there is like initially some like cognitive dissonance about it looking like a family and you playing it as a beat 'em up, when we got to like the final level and it was the 3 of us and Tariq playing as the family trying to rescue our baby, and we're all like screaming like, "Give us our baby back!" It kind of felt like unifying and like heartwarming in some way to be like going on this like journey of like tapped into this arcade cabinet together and beating the game together. I don't know, there was something kind of like unifying about that.
Konami truly knew how to bring people together with the Simpsons, I guess. And then they made Metal Gear.
Yeah. Kojima was like, yeah. He was like definitely inspired by this. This is arcade game.
Solid Snake was based off of Homer Simpson.
Right, yeah.
No.
When Homer has like a attack that's kind of like him choking Bart, where you jump and dive and he gets into like the choking position. And I'm sure a lot of Snake's moves in Smash Bros. Was directly inspired by that.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's how Snake gets his sneak kills all the time. That's from Homer.
But how about these other beautiful games on here, which you all will have to talk about? I didn't.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it for long, but I threw Aladdin Genesis on there because it's like that one and the Lion King that were made for Genesis, and they're really just like platformers that were dropped in the Genesis era that very loosely follow the plot of the movies, but it's kind of like the Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase game or something, where like they're all just like platformers that have like the setting and maybe some basic plot elements, but otherwise like your main experience is just going to be like suffering trying to jump over a gap for like an hour.
The Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase game was suffering for me. I had that on the computer as a child.
And in contrast, I think the Harvey Birdman game is a really successful example of a video game adaptation of something animated. If you guys have not played it or not seen it, if you've played like the Ace Attorney games or Aviary Attorney, it's an adaptation of that with the Harvey Birdman like hilarity and art style. So you're just going through a few different mystery missions and solving them with the janky Wiimote, and the dialogue is perfectly Harvey Birdman, and it just feels straight like you got dropped into an episode of the cartoon.
I wanted to ask about that because having seen big fan of Harvey Birdman, the court case is actually not a huge part of the show. Like I would say the average episode, the court case is like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
It's a sitcom.
Right. So how does that translate? If it's in like the Ace Attorney style.
Right. It's been quite a while since I played this game, I'm gonna be honest. But I think you're really more like focused on the dialogue, and even in Ace Attorney, like a big chunk of what you're doing is going and investigating the case in the first place, going and talking to different people. So it's mostly still like dialogue with the characters involved in the case, and then there's like a shorter like actual court scenario at the end.
Okay.
How about a little bit of chat on Sam and Max? Because I know you love that.
I do love Sam and Max.
I saw the cartoon.
The cartoon is chaos. So that's an interesting one because Sam and Max is actually a comic first, and then I think a series of video games. Hit the Road was the first one, which is like pixel graphics, and the rest of them were 3D. And then I think it became a cartoon. But that's like one of the more faithful adaptations in a video game. I think the creator of Sam and Max has like signed off on all the video games, even the more recent remake. And it's kind of the same scenario where you're just going around solving a mystery and laughing at the dialogue. But it feels like you got dropped into the cartoon or the comic. So
How about that SpongeBob?
Never mind. I have.
Well, Q&A will be at the end.
Yeah, well, Q&A at the end.
I'll let you get what I meant, kind of like.
Well, Q&A will be at the end. So
Yeah, don't worry,
yeah,
dude.
we can go over that. Yeah.
I will say for the SpongeBob game, that was like one of like the first ever like game I've ever had on PlayStation 2. Yeah. And it was also the first ever like adaptation like of anything I ever played. So I was really confused when I booted up this game that was like an adaptation of the movie, and then they had like 10-minute long segments for like a 2-minute scene.
Yes.
But it was pretty fun, and that was like my first ever like I guess exposure to like something being adapted in like a different medium. And it became abundantly clear to me that these like developers just get like a loose concept and they're like just have fun, just do this and have fun with it.
Truly, I think that's more so for Western game developers.
Yeah.
I'd say that like you're kind of just given a like a snippet of what's going on, and then you loosely like use that information to make it. Like I believe that's partially how like Legacy of Goku was made on GBA.
I think so. Yeah.
Legacy of Goku 2 was really good, but that first one.
It was kind of rough.
I think part of the reason for that is that a lot of these games that are kind of categorized as like shovelware, although I wouldn't call the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game that, is that they're like slated to release at the same time or slightly before the movie as like a promotional tool. So you can't, maybe they don't like know entirely what the, you know, what the final product of the movie is going to be when they're making the game. They kind of just have like basic concept art or like the general plot line. And even in the SpongeBob movie, like it's a lot of just like levels where you're again in the setting, not necessarily 100% going through a lot of.
Yeah.
I do love the SpongeBob platform.
Yeah, I know that when the thing you were talking about where the opening scene, SpongeBob gets out of the car and he walks to the Krusty Krab. That's a level.
Yeah.
That's a tutorial.
Yeah.
Him walking across the street is like the tutorial level. He has to go up and around and through this canyon. And it was built off the recycled assets of Battle for Bikini Bottom.
The thing is, like, playing that game, I remember I got it for Christmas one time, and I was going off of, you know, Battle of the Bikini Bottom. And I was happy that it had the mechanics, but then as I got further into the game, it gets to certain points where it's not really following the movie at all, because you have these racing segments where you have to collect these coins and like come in, like hit a certain time point. That
What do you do in a video game? You race to collect
it was
coins.
fun fighting and the Krabby Patty mobile. Like both of those levels had nothing to do with the movie, but they were so freaking difficult.
Yeah.
And it made it at that point it was like I don't ever want to play this game ever again. It was one of those things where it's like we get that you want to make a challenge for this because it's like you're trying to also kind of live up to the legacy of Battle for Bikini Bottom, even though it's like maybe 1 or 2 years old by that point. But it really was just one of those things where it's like clearly they were trying to follow within the time constraints of trying to get this out before the movie so that they could promote it with the movie. But it just made for a frustrating experience through it all, and you did feel a little bit like it's the cheaper version of the previous game.
Yeah.
I remember being so mad being stuck in the Weenie Hut Juniors level for like days at a time. They're in the movie for like maybe 5 minutes.
Right. There's
Where did they go in the movie?
Yeah.
In the level. Why
Right.
not?
They were never in the Weenie of Juniors. That's the thing. It's like
Don't they go to like your dress there?
it's Goofy Goober's ice
Oh, I'm
cream
sorry.
parlor.
Ice cream.
Yeah. Party
There you go. There you go.
There's
Melted together in my mind.
Yeah. No, I think that a good example of the movie versus the game is in the movie SpongeBob and Patrick have a car, the paddy wagon, that they drive like two times in the movie. And in the game they had to build this whole driving mechanic. So they can't only use it 2 times. They have to do four levels. So they did 2 times for the movie, and then they made up a dream level where SpongeBob and Patrick are in the Goofy Goober dream, and it's like a lot of reused assets from the previous levels. Okay, and then Minnie the Mermaid, they're like, oh, I'll bring back the car with magic, just so they can have one more driving level to round it out. Yeah.
Minnie the Mermaid, that mermaid girl that's like the daughter of.
Yeah.
Played by Scarlett Johansson.
I didn't really
I had a
watch
huge
SpongeBob
crush on
like
her.
that, Well, enough about that square in the sea. What's up with, haha, what's up, Doc?
Oh,
I'm
great.
so funny! Looney Tunes. Everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
If you don't, what's wrong with you?
There's like endless adaptations and iterations of Looney Tunes, but on the screen we've got Back in Action, Loons, which is just an early video game brawler, which we can talk about more if you guys don't know what that is. I did play a ton of it. We got like the OG Looney Tunes, we got the Looney Tunes show from the 2010s,
Best thing
and then we got
ever.
Space Jam.
And Space Jam 2 is in the background, but it's
We're not-
included. It's included.
we should have put it like off in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, Looney Tunes, we have all these adaptations, so just how do they measure up? Back in Action. What's up with that one?
Back in
That's my
Action.
favorite.
Yeah, that one was the one besides Space Jam 1 that I would play on repeat as a kid, and it was so fascinating as a movie that that was like the one I would constantly watch like behind the scenes of. Like I would always want to find out more how they did the movie. And that's kind of a testament to how good that one was, because where Space Jam, even though I had like a special edition with it, to be able to learn some of the behind the scenes, I didn't really care. That's kind of, because with Back in Action, there was always a use of all these practical effects and really trying to make this real world aspect that they're in play into what the Looney Tunes is, play into that spirit side. And that's just one thing that makes Back in Action stand above Space Jam. and that's why so many people come back and return to it. Even though, like, when it first came out, people were like, towards it because people were really a little too on Space Jams, a little bit too much, honestly. And let's face it, it just wasn't a good freaking movie. Space Jam isn't. I'm sorry, it just wasn't.
The reason
The
that
music was good.
I mean,
I
you're
like that. The
right.
music was good.
Let's not argue. The
But-
reason that I like Back in Action so much more is because it focuses the story specifically on Bugs and Daffy.
Exactly.
Where Space Jam seems to center the story more around like some of the human characters in the basketball team and like the celebrity guest, main star.
And it puts the Looney Tunes out of character.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that the Looney Tunes Back in Action, Daffy and Bugs as, cartoon husbands are just the main characters of the movie, and like their antics and the ways that they interact and affect each other are like, driving the plot forward. So that's why I think it's more successful.
Yeah. How about y'all?
I've only seen Back in Action once, and it was like when the second Space Jam was getting announced and that news was coming out. And I think Back in Action definitely stands out like as the best out of like that quote unquote trilogy. Because the Looney Tunes are in character, they're doing their thing. I think the way they composite the animation is a lot better than the way the characters are rendered in the first Space Jam looks gross. Like they're trying to do like the airbrush shading. Not really a fan of that. But they're like free to do cutaways. Like here's a little Wile E. Coyote bit in Back in Action. And I think they play down the live action actors, or they're more whimsical. Like what is it? Steve Martin.
Oh yeah, he's so cartoony.
Yeah, he's like the villain in that, and they're kind of trying to play on the same level. I don't think it's like entirely successful, but it's Joe Dante who did Gremlins 2, and right, yeah. So it definitely has the spirit. I think the execution could have been better.
I think it technically does look better, like in Space Jam.
Yeah.
I think the execution could have been a little better, but I think it was a pretty good watch.
Did you just repeat what I said?
I think it's,
Thank you.
I like Space Jam a whole lot more, but I can recognize how better Back in Action is.
Yes.
I'm in agreement with Joey in all honesty. Like, back when Back in Action came out, I was of the opinion that it was hot doo-doo, it was trash. Where this is not my Looney Tunes kid. I didn't hate it, this looks like it. And then I got older and then I watched it again and I'm like, it's alright, this is cute, this is fine.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really like the high stats of it that much, but it's still very cute, and I can recognize, like you all were saying, that it objectively, is like the Looney Tunes, like in their element, like where it's supposed to be. But I am from Chicago. I love Space Jam. It is my favorite. It came out on my birthday, so that was for me.
Right, yeah.
And I went to go see it on my birthday.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, I'm like,
I had a really fantastic theater experience with Space Jam too, because I'm like, I got all my friends together. We did a big New York trip, and it was the first new movie I'd seen since the pandemic started. Sorry, Top Gun, Maverick. The movies were truly bad with Space Jam 2. Yeah.
Literally, like, I don't know, Space Jam. I guess just like pulls a lot of nostalgia for me too. Like, it's like kind of I get rid of the rose-colored glasses and knowing that like it was kind of like a mess of a production. Like my college professor, Michael. I forgot his last name. It's been years since I've been in college. I graduated in college in 2015. Sorry. But I had a storyboard college professor who worked on Space Jam, and he told me that he animated a lot of like the Tweety scenes, and he was saying that it was a little annoying to sort of work on the film because they had to sort of like deal with the lack of acting capability of a lot of the talent. So sorry, MJ and everybody else. Like, they're cool sports stars, but their acting and like their ability to sort of like be in the space appropriately where these characters are supposed to be was just sort of a pain on the animation side. And my other boss, Bruce W. Smith, who worked on Proud Family, shared kind of similar sentiments about his experience working on Space Jam, and how like it was really fun and he had a good time, but like it was just sort of like hard at times because of how they had to incorporate live action and
Was he like animation director on that?
No, Bruce was an animation director. He just like was like an animator, like working on like several characters. I can't remember which ones he said he did, but my professor did a lot of 2D stuff.
Alright, yeah.
You wanted to
Yeah,
throw in?
I did want to say, like, with Space Jam, it stands as two things. It is a beloved childhood, like, classic, but it's also not a very good faithful adaptation of what the Looney Tunes is.
Yeah, I agree.
When you think about what the Looney Tunes are, the conflict that they have in the movie, they literally just one of them could handle all of the Monstars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Bugs can handle all 5 of them on his own, but he's done it before. So that's the one thing that really doesn't work. And then you have certain jokes where it's like, oh, Porky pisses himself. It's like, when did the Looney Tunes use that? So it even went so far as to even piss off like Chuck Jones and other like former like Looney Tunes animators, because their thing is like, this is not the Looney Tunes. This is not how they're supposed to act. They are not supposed to be such chickens or need help in any of this regards. And that's just one of the things. But you can recognize there are these certain elements to the movie that are nostalgic. I still listen to certain songs from it, like Hit 'em High with all, like it had Coolio, LL Cool J, Method Man, Being Real, and all these, and Off the Rhyme. That was such a major combo of rappers all coming together.
Like, you didn't have to go that hard.
It didn't. It didn't, but it's such a good song, and I still listen to it to this day. Then, you know, theme song itself, from the Quad City DJs, is like, that's still a banger. Like, you can still play that, and people definitely get hyped up.
I'm probably in the minority that thinks that that one is better than the one that Just Blaze did for Space Jam 2. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people really like it, but when I was in the theater, I'm like, man, I don't feel really pumped up. I'm just really pumped up when I watch Space Jam. This is just like cool beat. I'm sorry.
I can somewhat agree with that. I still like the We Win from
Yeah, like, it's not bad.
Like, it's not bad. It's just one of the rappers kind of sucks on it. Look, I will talk crap about the rapper. I will. But,
I mean,
we're not here for that. But
I like that song before. It's kind of, the rappers just kind of blends into the background for me on that. But have you guys ever heard of, I'm getting off topic, Slamilton? Someone did a remix of the Space Jam album with Hamilton.
What?
Yes.
Is it like,
So
is
it
good?
is the entirety of, it's fantastic. It's the entirety of Hamilton soundtrack synced up to parts of Space Jam. Yeah.
About Loons, and then we can talk about Okay, so Loons is called Loons: The Fight for Fame. I'm not sure if it was on other platforms. I played it on the original Xbox when I was a kid. I'll just spend like a minute on this. And the game is actually, it's like the exact same game exists for Tom and Jerry, and I think it was on the PlayStation. But the essential thing is like, it's just like a level. There's a bunch of levels that are like themed around like the saloon or a couple other stages, and the idea is that like you as one of the Looney Tunes characters, I think you can just play as like Tad, Sylvester, Daffy and Bugs. Maybe there's like one or two others, and you're like trying to become like the most famous Looney Tunes character by like beating the crap out of each other and becoming like the last person to win, you know, the level or whatever. So ultimately, it doesn't have like a lot of relation to the series. It is, what's the name of the cowboy guy? The little, Yosemite Sam is like the guy who's like running the fame competition or whatever. So I have a lot of time playing that with my siblings and my dad, but it really has like not a lot to do with the Looney Tunes. And then in comparison, we also have the Looney Tunes show on here,
Which is a banger.
probably my favorite adaptation ever of the Looney Tunes in like any form.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I believe I remember when it came out, and again, myself included, I was a dumb college child who just liked to believe everything else that everybody else said. But like, I remember being a little like weird about it. I was like, what is this? I don't know watch Seinfeld. And then when I got older as an adult, I'm 30. I watched them like, oh, they just like me for real. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's a shame.
I know it was pretty decisive. It was pretty decisive with the redesigns went in like a slightly different direction, more angular. But I feel like even though they did some weird choices for some of the characters, and it's definitely like they're super sitcom-y.
Very.
Yeah.
But it kind of works.
Yeah, I think that the fact that like a lot of the writing works, and a lot of the characters, they maintain their essence even though they're plopped into like suburbia.
Yeah.
It's just funny. I think that's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
It's
sort
funny.
of like quirky, weird girl who's probably needs therapy. On Take on Lola Bunny is like very interesting and very funny.
I love
to
it.
me.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
yeah.
I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people thought it was weird, but like I think it fits sort of like the sitcom vibe.
The thing is, with Lola is like, because she was first introduced in Space Jam, but she was just your basic 90s
Just
archetype girl.
eye candy.
Yeah, and also like.
Random.
Yeah. And so that's why it's like, oh, they really could go all out with Lola and the Looney Tunes show, and it's one of those things where it's like, that is definitive how people want to see Lola. Even with Space Jam 2, it's like, she's kind of fallen back into the whole,
Yeah.
just,
It was a little
typical girl.
disappointing. She goes in the background. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't
even
know, guys. Zendaya as Lola. I mean,
Zendaya
yeah, come on, guys.
just to kind of go on a little tangent about Zendaya, is that it really made no freaking sense because they literally, the whole thing is like, we want a celebrity to play these characters. They literally had Kristen Wiig as her in the show. She was a celebrity. They had her back. Like, it blew my mind that they had to get Zendaya for that. It's like, Kristen Wiig is a celebrity and she's funny. She could have worked just fine. It just annoys me.
Gotta say, man, you're pushing your luck. First, you have your ringer turned on, disrupting
Yeah.
the panel. Then you keep smashing the table, disrupting our. What about our viewers at home?
They hate us. They hate us now.
Yeah. We're getting dislikes in real life. Everyone, you can't see it on the camera. Everyone has their thumbs down.
They got like a crowd of people with like pitchforks.
Yeah. They're really quiet. You can't hear the giant mob.
They disrupt the panel.
Yeah, they're
Anymore than it's already
the
been.
respectful, angry mob. Very rare.
Okay, so we got like 20 minutes for questions. I think we can probably take a few.
Yeah.
Mariana.
Dang, just put my name out there like that.
And you have to come up because people need to hear you.
question?
Okay, we're gonna have some things to say. I'm some words.
We're not.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, this is just something I said. Oh, okay.
Take your time. Take your time.
Also, just thank you all for sitting through it.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for coming out to the panel,
If you don't
everyone.
want to do for Q&A, it's totally fine, but.
Thanks for tolerating my rambling.
So, a while ago, I made this video about the book series called Dork Diaries, and I made some people mad like I always do. But basically, I said something along the lines, because I was saying it's rumored that there's going to be a Dork Diaries movie coming, and I'm like, no, those books would not translate well into a film. It's like, the appeal of the Dork Diaries book is that you're reading a girl's diary. You're being nosy. I am somebody that's like, I like when books just kind of stay books and not being adapted into like live action film and all that, but we know people do that for the sake of money. I want to ask you guys a question. The main thing I said in that video was, why is it that y'all can't appreciate something until it's live action?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good question.
That kind of goes into this mindset, and this was, and sort of can blame a bit of Hanna-Barbera on this, because their whole thing was building up like animation for kids, you know, making cheaper stuff like the Flintstones and stuff, and it created that stigma that it's like live action is just for the more mature audiences, even though it's like we've seen a lot of live action things that were very much not that mature. Wait, Transformers. Right. And it's just one of those things where it's like people just will not get out of the mindset that animation is not a genre, which is what I got to say on this shirt. It is a medium. That is how it's
Hey, where can you get that shirt?
You can get it on my storefront that I can happily send you, and I will give you a 30% discount.
Let them know.
Yeah.
All right. Let's kind of go back.
Okay, well team for thought here. First of all, the Flintstones was not for kids, contrary to popular belief.
Not so much. It was more family friendly, but as Hanna-Barbera went on, it kind of started becoming more of a, we're just making this for the kids.
Well,
Yeah.
that much I can agree
The
with.
Great
So,
Kazoo begs to differ.
yeah, everyone hates Kazoo. Alright, so while we're on the topic of Looney Tunes adaptations, obviously Back in Action, Space Jam, TLTS and stuff, those are the ones that everyone knows about. But there's like so much more of a rabbit hole to go down, and I honestly find it kind of sad that hybrid films seem to be the best we can really get for some reason. It's like the best we have to go is one where the director's vision had to be severely compromised and one that he isn't even happy with.
For sure, yeah. Back in Action was so stretched from like what he actually wanted.
Right.
He basically wanted it to be the anti-Space Jam.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, I guess my question here is, are there any other Looney Tunes adaptations that you think are really of note in this discussion?
The Looney Tunes cartoons, like the current one.
Yes.
I always hear, I've seen a little bit of it. Always hear great things about not only like how it is adapting like the old style of the shorts, but they're having like artists bring their own touch. I know like there was one, Aaron Springer, who's done like a lot of SpongeBob, Samurai Jack, tons of Billy Dilly was his show, and he did like this very I don't know, very loose style. So I think having that kind of format, keeping it in the short format, because that's something we didn't talk about with Looney Tunes being originally shorts. Now it's doing full 22-minute episodes and movies. And I think the short format is where it thrives. And I will mention, there's a short called Basketball Bugs, which is Bugs Bunny would just beat up everyone if he was challenged in a game of basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why didn't they play any of those in the theater? I totally would have gone to
Right, that would have been a good. Yeah.
Well,
let's make sure we're letting people answer the question, okay, guys? Don't talk over each other.
Yes. I will say, like, with those shorts, like, they're really good, but I haven't watched a lot of the new batch of episodes, but the ones that I did watch, and I did a video with the Wacky Deli when we reviewed it when they first dropped. The thing that I finally thought about, like sometime after since they dropped, was that while they are a good adaptation and honestly a good way to modernize the Looney Tunes while keeping them to the same spirit as the original shorts, they kind of ignore a certain thing about Looney Tunes, that they do build up to the slapstick more than anything. Like Tom and Jerry is the one that's pure just slapstick most of the time. Looney Tunes is always the thing of like, let's just tell some dialogue jokes first and then we'll get to some slapstick. Like the most notable thing, like Wabbit season, Duck season and all that, like that's all dialogue, and then we get to eventually chasing Elmer with the gun and shooting at him, you know. And with the new shorts, it mostly gets right into the slapstick before we get into like any like dialogue jokes or anything like that. There's still some dialogue, obviously, but most of the time it's very heavy on the slapstick more than anything. If anything, the way that it does its humor, it should be done in like more Tom and Jerry stuff, which we're trying to do a little bit of, but they just kind of haven't gone that far with. Like there was like these new things these new shorts that came out that looked really good, but
I took a storyboard test for one of these. I didn't get the job. Doing stuff for Tom and Jerry is very hard.
Is there laws?
Should we take another question?
Yes, another question.
Let's go
we
to
got
the back.
a line.
Come on, the back. How about you over there? Way over here. Come on up. Yeah, you. Come here.
Or you can yell. It's up to you.
No. And since we have 10 minutes, let's try and keep stuff a little bit briefer, please.
Right.
I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan. I don't know who you are, but hi.
Dan the man.
The American Dad guy.
Yes, that's me.
Nice to meet you finally.
Yes, finally. You know, I came like a little late, but I was here to catch the entirety of the video games and cartoons thing.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I think that my go-to is always Futurama the game, because I think that got a lot of like key writers on board, or at least the cutscene aspects of it. I guess that was off tangent. My question is, in regards to video games and cartoons, do you think that it's better when the characters of said cartoons are placed in a game that's not related to their show? For example, I don't know if you ever heard of a game called Poker Night at the inventory. Basically, it's a bunch of characters from different media, like Sam from Sam and Max, Brock from Venture Brothers.
Oh, I know what you're talking
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Ash from Evil Dead, and then Claptrap from Borderlands, and that's just one of them. And I think personally, I think that gives it a better chance to shine, because then you don't need to worry so much about the source material. So I'm just curious what you guys thought about that.
I would say that actually is a unique thing, and that's why why a lot of people nowadays get excited for like these multiversal things where it's all these different characters coming together and talking with each other, because it's interesting to just see the characters play off of each other. That's why most recently it was a Family Guy bit where they had Homer Simpson, Bob Belcher, and Peter Griffin in just Bob's restaurant, and they were just there in the space, and it's just fascinating. It was a moment that was in people's minds. It was just for a gag, but it was interesting to see all three of those characters together in one setting. And if anything, it made, for me, definitely, I could say, it made me want to just see these characters just talk. Like, they could just be in the restaurant, they could be at Moe's, wherever, just talking to each other, and they don't have to go on any adventures. And that's always what's interesting. That's always an interesting thing when they can pull that off. So I think, yeah, that type of thing can work really well, because it's like you're not worrying about a story or staying true to the spirit of an entire franchise. You're just trying to stay true to who a character's character personality is more than anything.
I'm just gonna say Kingdom Hearts exists, and that's really great. Next question.
Yeah, next question.
How about you over there with the ears? No.
Nice tunic.
Yes.
When I saw it, I was like,
you were
it's
doing
tunic.
it. What's that? I'm confused. I got the sword and shield over there, but
Oh,
sweet.
cool.
But, hi, I'm Clara.
Hey.
I guess my question is, how do you feel about Lunatics, and why is it Lunatics Unleashed, and why is it fantastic?
Oh.
Do you want to take the lead?
I don't care for it.
My favorite thing to come out of that whole show is I'm sounding like such a nerd. There's a great NPR interview where they have like the president, some representative of Warner Brothers, like one of the executives, talking to a 10-year-old who made a petition online. Yeah, and they talk to each other, and he's like, yeah, this is just a new refresh. It's not replacing the old Looney Tunes. But I've never seen the show, but I've listened to that interview.
Yeah. Cool. Anime looking one.
Yeah, with the super.
Oh, okay, good. That was pretty fine. That's good. I like that one.
I will say, our friend Hats Off Media with D'Angelo Edwards did a really good video that actually does some good defending of the show. And I will admit, it is, at first it's like, yeah, you do gotta get past the fact that it's like, these are the Looney Tunes characters, but put in an extreme sense. But it still kind of holds up as its own thing more than anything. Like, it can be funny. It has nice action to it. The animation's also pretty nice, if anything. Like, but I would say it's like, if you can like look up Hats Off Media's video on it, talking about the show and like really defending the show properly, because it actually works for itself, honestly.
Yeah. Next question. Who we got?
Get
Over there with the glasses.
Rod.
Yeah. Sorry, I should probably know more of our content friends.
Oh, nice stuff.
I'm new to feed and follow YouTube.
Yeah, good correct.
W staff.
Got a conviction. Thank you. I'm Rod. Talking a little bit about animated adaptations. Yeah, I know talk about Looney Tunes and I think just Looney Tunes. But if you had to pick a show that has never been adapted in animation, what would it be?
Can I pick a
Like
game?
a show?
Yeah, you pick a game.
Okay.
Can I pick a music?
I'm
I
gonna.
want to adapt to the
Yeah.
cartoon.
Oh, just anything.
Yeah, anything.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick a game.
Let's go one at a time. Go one down.
So we play that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, it's the whole No More Heroes franchise. If you ever played No More Heroes, that's a perfect game. If you haven't played it, you should play it. What are you doing with your life? It's a perfect story. I think that it would be perfectly adapted into like an animated thing. Even if it was like a movie, I'd take anything, a crumb, a smidget, anything. I need it. That's my answer.
I'm going to steal something my friend Ryan on Twitter said, which was Universal has the rights to do Nintendo movies. So get DreamWorks to make a Star Fox movie, and they can use their furry technology and all their artists to make to make $1 zillion in the box office.
I recently went here for the first time and saw the Phantom of the Opera before it closed, and it blew my mind. It was wonderful. And I really want a Phantom of the Opera animated series, and I want Christine Bae to be black, like how she is in the recent run, and it's really great. And I know that the Phantom is a Sensibaka, but it's just like good food, good cringe food.
I'm having a hard time thinking of anything, but I recently finished watching The Good Place, which is a very fantastic little live-action show. And yeah, what's more? They do a lot of really silly stuff, and like it kind of feels like live-action cartoon already. So I guess that's one that could have been animated and probably would have been just as successful.
Nick stole one of mine, so but I gotta have one. So I would like to see the Kingdom Hearts games adapted full on, like into its own series. I wouldn't really want it to be a one-to-one recreation of the games because let's face it, the games are kind of messy in the storytelling department. Granted, if you follow the manga, from what I hear, the manga's a lot better in how to tell the story, so maybe that could work. But I would want it to be like different characters were following, like different Keyblade wielders going to like different worlds of like certain parts. Maybe like they go to the TV shows of Disney or so. You know, something like that would be interesting to see.
Who's no said hanging out with Sora? Oh my god.
So you want that adaptation to be simple and
Yeah, I changed my mind. I want a Katamari cartoon. I don't know what they would do.
Oh, that would be nice.
Alright, next question.
This might be the last one. Man, you can pick. I'm picking.
So far back right.
Come on up. Come on up. Come on. Give me $50 and donate to the Church of Anime.
Oh, I heard about that. No, but I had a quick question. We focused a lot on anime, Looney Tunes, great stuff. I would think about thinking forward with the recent trend of video game to film and TV show adaptations. I was curious what your thoughts were about how the industry is moving towards that, because like we have like the Assassin's Creed movie that was kind of very divisive in the Assassin's Creed fan base, the Halo TV show very divisive in the Halo community, but you also have the Last of Us TV show, which has been like accepted around the board, and so I was curious what your guys' thoughts were on that as the industry moves forward.
I want to hear it. So, I want to say, I think we're moving in a really strong direction, and to be honest, you can kind of thank Marvel a little bit on this, because they understood the assignment of, let's get directors who actually grew up with these things, versus just some director who might have to just read a comic book or something like that. So they're choosing people who actually love and appreciate these, like, games, and to make these things. That's why we're getting stuff like a Sonic movie, because Jeff Fowler...
First Sonic mention. Almost made it through.
We almost did,
Blue guy.
But yeah, with the Sonic movie, it's the director Jeff Fowler. He worked on some Sonic games beforehand. So with getting him on there, it's like, okay, he can adapt this in a sense. He couldn't get it to be like a perfect adaptation, you know, where it's like, jeez, like where it's fully animated or anything like that. But it's like we still got something that feels stable to who Sonic is as a character, while also introducing like its own unique adaptation of it, you know. So if anything, I say we're moving in a really strong direction, especially now with The Last of Us. Granted, let's face it, The Last of Us was kind of an easy game to adapt because, let's face it, we cared more about this. Yeah, it was basically more of a movie than it was the game.
Okay, I got a one-sentence argument, and I am tired of adaptations, and I think we should be fostering more original ideas from new creators instead of just paying corporations, giving them more money for pre-existing properties. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
I think maybe we should leave it on that.
Yeah, leave it on that. All right.
No more adaptations.
Yeah, no more adaptations.
But in reality, everything is unoriginal.
They don't have to pay new people and take risks on new talent.
Yeah.
Just
No,
watch it on.
no new IP, just cool things.
Just
All
that
right.
infinite money glitch. That's it.
So thank you guys for coming for Grand Channel Meeting panel.
Thank
I
you
don't
for coming
know.
out.
Thank you for hanging out with us, and have a good rest of your time.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Whatever after, feel free to.
Yeah, we'll be, if
Yeah, come
anybody
up
has
to,
any questions for us, or wants to chat more, we will be outside because we need to make way
Right.
for whatever
Yep.
panel comes next.
Yeah.
We'll see you like right outside.
Thank you. Have a great rest.
Thank you.